what, KR? At the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, after this show, I'm gonna see how much a metaverse attorney earns.
Attacks in the metaverse are booming. And I
At-
cannot
at-
put the specific attacks. We're talking about SA attacks, SA assaults of a certain kind. People are claiming. Let me find the. They are claiming the same meme you had out there. So this is what the
oh my god! In the metaverse.
in the metaverse. Yes, in the metaverse. So right now, the thing that is happening, activists are urging police forces to grapple with attacks in virtual reality, but prosecuting digital abuse could be tricky. Because how can you actually prosecute something that in actuality never happened? Would you prosecute someone who was killed in a game? I don't know where you're gonna take it. It's gonna be very interesting how this develops from a lawyer's point of view.
I'm gonna need your patience for 15 seconds so I can illustrate something. Okay?
Okay. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna mute myself.
No, that's not muting. It's not muting at all. I'm just saying we didn't plan this, but I'm just gonna. You just need to, 15 seconds. Okay.
Give you the 50
Let's
seconds.
say something is happening that I don't like. Let's say it starts now.
Continue. Yo.
You just leave. I don't get it, KR. I don't get it.
It's crazy.
Why don't they leave? I mean,
You gotta do as soon as you said, imagine if I and then I didn't even hear you leave, but I was like, this guy's gonna go out of the. I look
You
up, we're there.
KR, you just leave, right?
Man. You
So to
can
me,
leave.
so to
You
me,
can love
KR, it's a sickness. This whole victim mentality is a sickness. If it's happening, just leave. But I think, the more and more the more and more we talk about the Matrix, at least the movie, at least. And when we saw it, I think it came out in the 90s, right? 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, the
It was
first one.
amazing. And I remember the first one, I liked it because of the action. The action was amazing.
Mm.
But when you really watch it and rewatch it, and I've rewatched it like a couple of times now, it's basically the people were living, they were basically literally plugged in
Yep.
and living in like a big computer. Their minds were in that computer. The first time, KR, the funny thing is when he woke up, I didn't understand it. I was watching it and I liked the action, but I wasn't understanding it.
Mm.
If you look at the way we're going right now, you see people walking with their, what's
The
it called? The
Apple.
Apple
Yeah.
Apple
I know
glasses.
glass or something like that. The goggles. The goggles we've been
Yeah.
seeing everyone working with. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very
It's good
popular.
to so technology is good if it serves you, as long as you don't become its servant. KR, people are crossing the
Say that
street.
too loud. Don't say that too loud. Someone wrote a manifesto about that. They might think you read that manifesto.
Did someone read a wrote a manifesto about it?
I'm not saying he did, but someone did. Yes, maybe, maybe, very
Right.
maybe. He
So
got
I'm
locked
just
up
gonna say.
for whatever he did. He's
So
not
so I,
here anymore, but
so I'm just saying. Was
he
it a
was a very
was it a United guy? Was it the postman?
he was in the woods. He got caught in the woods. So we know
Right.
who we're talking about. Yeah, we know who we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, then I know what you're talking about. I didn't know that he wrote it, but it's basically that's where we're going right now. But to me, it's crazy, care. Just press the button. Leave.
It is. It is. I don't know how you actually can do that in those environments because I
So
don't think
so
you can
yeah. So
really see
so
the
yeah. So that was
what
your
is.
question. Your question as a lawyer, right? So I think technically speaking, it's possible.
Hmm.
Um, but then the sentence would also be a virtual sentence. So what do I what do you mean?
Holy
No,
shit.
because it's yes, because that was your question. So let's think of it. If we think of the law, uh, so the question is that we're going to explore: can a crime be committed in the metaverse? The answer is yes. But for a crime to be committed in the metaverse, it should be punishable somewhere. So if it's not punishable, probably in the, let's call it,
Really.
that's a crazy world, crazy word, the real world. But
Mhm.
if it ca- if it's like, because there's no bodily harm, right? But
Mhm.
in the metaverse, if you have rules in the metaverse against it and you do it, then it's a crime, and you, technically speaking,
And
can be
dangerous
sentenced in
condition.
the metaverse. So we're talking about in the metaverse. The question is, can you also be sentenced outside out of the metaverse? That to me is a bit more tricky, because if on the metaverse level it was physical, in the real world it's not physical, so it's maybe emotional, right? It's like emotional damage,
Yeah.
and that falls under something
Trauma.
else. It can fall
Emotional
under,
trauma.
yeah. So it can be maybe some kind of harassment, some kind of stalking maybe, but not the real deal. But I think that the metaverse has is becoming more and more, let's say, the reality of a lot of people. What I think, so where we're going, KR,
It's
is
going.
that I'm a like a real lawyer in the real world.
Mhm.
What I think is that I can be a lawyer in the metaverse. I really think that
Mhm.
I can be a lawyer in the metaverse. And I do see in the future, and I think that's the intention as well, that we wear glasses and I can sit face to face with my client,
Through
right?
the metaverse or separately.
Thr- But through the metaverse. So I sit in my office, that person sits in his or her office, and with the goggles. I don't know if you saw the interview, the podcast episode of Lex Friedman with Mark Zuckerberg, but they have one where they did it through the glasses. It was
Oh
pretty
yeah, that
dope.
one. Yeah, 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 I know. I know what you mean.
So I think that's gonna be the metaverse in a few. So you can do it in the real world, but it wouldn't surprise me if the metaverse would have its own rules. It's almost inevitable that a metaverse would have its own rules, and because you can buy properties and all those things, right? So technically speaking, there
Mhm.
can be fraud, there can be all those things, and that you would have a metaverse lawyer. You know what, KR? At the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, after this show, I'm gonna see how much a metaverse attorney earns.